Well, what's up, gorgeous souls, and welcome back to another one of my videos around the moons. We are talking specifically about this new moon total solar eclipse that is happening in Aries at 29 degrees. This is the second new moon that is happening in Aries in this particular season. We all know that, or maybe we don't all know, so you will know after this, that in Aries, when we enter into Aries season, it is when the new year starts for the astrological calendar. So it's kind of exciting times, new things are happening, what you've finally been ready to move into maybe feels more possible. And this being the second new moon at 29 degrees is really saying to you, well, if you didn't start something at the first one, you're going to start it now. And not only are you going to start something new, you need to let something go to be able to move forward. Now, I also pulled a card to just give us the vibes of what do you need to know, what is happening holistically. If you're like, I don't really get the astrology, I don't really get the human design, I just need some insights to help me move forward into something beautiful, brand new. Well, you've got to redefine some boundaries, friends. So if there are people leeching your energy from you, or activities or places or things that are just kind of sucking your energy dry, it's time to kind of build some boundaries around those things, people, or places. So I'm going to give you some tools to be able to do that and some insights into how to navigate this energy in a way that's really going to help you step into this creator version of you that you're here to be, because there is something very magical and very powerful about this particular solar eclipse. So let's dive in. For those of you who want to jump forward, down below, it's got timestamps there for you to understand how to move forward. I got notes here and all the things I want to make sure I mention, because I get so excited. Sometimes I forget to mention things that you really need to know. Now, here we go. Let's dive into the astrology first, because I feel like it really helps, explain some of the energetic flow overall holistically. So this is the beautiful chart for this solar eclipse. When it is a new moon, the sun and the moon are conjunct. And don't worry so much about the houses. You really just want to pay attention to where that Aries energy is in your own chart. So where it is for you will be the stage it plays out on house-wise, okay? So I'm going to give you the flow of the energy, and then you can go back and look at yours, or maybe you've printed out your chart and you have it handy so you can walk through it with me. Now, when we look here to this gorgeous chart, we see there's a lot of things happening. I also have all the asteroids in here because I love working with the feminine aspects. I find them to be very powerful, very helpful, and they give you even more insights to your energy and how this may show up for you. I mean, most of you who are here are females, so you are my people, and I am exploring new ways to bring you insights, information, and inspiration that helps you own that stage, that global stage that you may be ready to step onto. So let's get started. All right. The ruler of this beautiful eclipse is Mars. Okay. So we're like, ooh, well, where is Mars? And it's interesting because we're in eclipse season now. You're feeling all the vibes. These first two eclipses are ruled by Mars. Now, the Scorpio one that will happen in a couple of weeks will be co-ruled by Mars and Pluto. Well, both of those players are in this one as well. And then we have the two eclipses come the fall. So 6 months down the road, they're both ruled by Venus. An interesting energy that we're experiencing from now until the fall is this play between our sacred masculine energy and our divine feminine, not being just one or the other, but finding ways to be in both in a way that we've never been before. We also have a Venus retrograde that will happen throughout the summer in Leo, the stage. Interesting. So this is what we're working with. Remember that, Aries is about passion. It's about moving something forward, planting the seeds, the momentum, the new beginning, right? And it's, what are we starting? What did we want to start, back when the equinox hit and the first new moon in Aries hit, like what were we kind of thinking about, but we didn't quite have all the pieces together or the gumption to go for it. And now you have a different energy. So there is something that really helps to move you forward in this energy now that you didn't have before, potentially. Some of you did and some of you went for it. Some of you didn't, and you're ready now. Well, it's the perfect time. It's always on time, So 28 days ago is when that first new moon hit with the equinox, right? And it was a very powerful initiation point because it was at 0 degrees. So you can go back and watch the video from that one as well. But now we're at the, final degree, like literally 10 minutes out before the sun moves into Taurus. So we get this next chance. Okay. So don't waste this one. Now, if we think about in the numerology, 29, so the 29 degree point breaks down into 11. Remember, like this is a double initiation point. It's a double new beginning. So 11 breaks down into that new beginning, this initiation, this gateway window, and whatever you started around March 20th, when the first new moon happened, now we have more perspective. We can see more. What if we started a project, made a decision? It's like, it's all coming into this culmination point of, okay, what's the breakthrough I'm ready to have? Where do I want to break through in my life? And what have you been building? Because this is a total solar eclipse. So the energy is picking up, ramping up, and moving us forward very quickly. And Mars is that ruler. We look to Mars and say, okay, well, what's he doing? Well, he's hanging out in Cancer. Mars in Cancer isn't exactly ecstatic because he can't move as quickly as he would like to. Cancer is that nurturing, sensitive, intuitive, receptive part of ourselves where it's like Mars just wants to go and move quick. He wants to get things started. He's fire. And he's in water. So imagine it's like running underwater is the energy of a Mars in Cancer. It's frustrated. It can't move as quickly. It has to take time. It has to feel all the feelings. And it doesn't want to feel all the feelings. So it's stirring something up within us that we may have, this also brings that energy of the Cancer energy can bring up what wasn't healed in our younger years, this inner child wounding around how we shared our aggression, how we were able to, talk about our feelings and share our feelings. Like what he's doing while he's here is he's stirring up things that we had to suppress down, or maybe we weren't allowed to express with our siblings, with our parents, and it's kind of bubbling up, right? So as this bubbles up, you're like, what do I do with all of this emotional energy when I'm running underwater with it, right? So what this is bringing up is a sense of allowing you to, revisit, revise the way you deal with this repressed energy, this ability. Like if you ever were told when you were young, you're not creative, whatever you put out, it wasn't good. We stuff that's down deep, 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 deep down. And then, at some point it bubbles up. Well, this is that bubbling up point, right? So how is it bubbling up for you? Look to the house that this is playing out in, because that will be where it comes forward. Now, what else did I want to say about this was that, there is this clashing of energy because you think the moon rules Cancer. Okay. So Mars is ruling this total solar eclipse. The moon rules Cancer. So there is this masculine, feminine energy at play, and it's starting this new revised way about how we look at how we take action, and then how we're in the receptivity. You can't have one without the other. I feel like that's a song. You can't have one without the Married with Children, right? So here's your Married with Children moment where you're like, how do I balance all of these things? How do I balance the way I want to be in action, but also the way I want to be in receptivity to be able to allow myself, to be supported? And when we look at the human design, you're going to see exactly how this plays out and where it plays out energetically. So the balance between your receptivity and your assertion is what we're working on over this eclipse season in the spring. So focusing in on there. And then when we come into, that Venus retrograde in Leo, a fire sign, it's also going to get us the bring the feminine aspect more forward to the stage. How do I own this feminine power on a more global stage? How do I bring it forward? How do I bring the femininity into action, but also stay into the receptivity while being assertive? This is the balance. This is what we will be working with. And it's going to carry us forward into the fall, where we will also have the eclipses being like, now what did you learn? How did you work with that energy? And now it's time, right? So there's going to be this, initiation, a slowdown, and then an awareness. Like, it's like, oh, now it all makes sense. So just know there is divine timing at work. And our main goal right now with that redefined boundaries card is to really allow ourselves to be who we want to be in a way that isn't being affected by the energy of someone else. Like, you're finally done with that. You get to finally be done with the views that you may receive from siblings, the views you may receive from parents about who you could and could not be. I think that that's what's maybe potentially getting a revisit. Now, when we look at this beautiful energy here of the solar eclipse, Jupiter's very close by. Like, we kind of have this stellium of planets in Aries, and I've got Eris in here too, the goddess of discord. How interesting that she's stirring up this energy within us that is shaking up how we are expanding. You think of Jupiter is about justice, the higher education, wisdom, beliefs, the beliefs we received, the beliefs what we think about things, how we feel about things. But remember too, Jupiter is about that expansion. So are we expanding into old beliefs or new beliefs? Like, this is where I think you're questioning all of the things. You're looking at things differently than you've ever looked at them before. And the whole point of this is to deal with any of those suppressed assertive feelings that you maybe it was never safe for you to feel them. Now it's safe for you to feel them because they're coming up and you've got to do something with them. You need to move them somewhere. We will talk about how to move the issues out of your tissues, but just so you know that is also happening. Mars is making a sextile to Mercury. So if we look here, here's Mars, here's Mercury, and a sextile is like them, enjoying each other's company, working together. But the day after this solar eclipse, Mercury goes retrograde. So you think about that, it's like we're really thinking about how we want to communicate that energy of the way we want to assert ourselves. How do we want to speak to this new way of being, of feeling, of enjoying, being, moving forward, doing the things, but we get a chance to really think about it, right? Uranus is right in there too. So Uranus is part of this energy, which is, a little bit, what's the word? A little bit unpredictable, but this can also contribute to that fast moving, like, boom, you can move through this really quickly. You could get to the other side really quickly. And what's also interesting about this sextile to Mercury and Uranus is that it's Venus who rules Taurus. So Venus is a player in so many areas of this. And there is a real awakening here to how we want to communicate our divine feminine, our instinctual divine feminine is now coming forward. And it's also another interesting point here is when we break down, April 20th, 2023 for 2023, it also breaks down to 13. 13 is the number of the divine feminine. There are 13 weeks in a season. There are 13 lunar cycles, and Venus has 13 cycles. I mean, you can very much see, if not by now, how important this divine feminine and sacred masculine energy is together. Now, the eclipse, so here squares Pluto. We have a square going to Pluto, and Pluto is at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Okay. So yes, it's an out of sign square, but it's still a square. You know, it is very intense. And this is also, when we look at the next eclipse that happens May the 5th, it's in Scorpio. So it's ruled by Mars and Pluto. So Pluto is also a player of that particular eclipse. And, you know, like the interesting thing with this is, it's like if you've been in a situation where you want to move out of a controlling situation. When Pluto is involved, it's like death, rebirth, transformation. There's this element of control that is always present when we're talking about fabulous Pluto. What gets transformed will never be the same after. So you may have this energy of wanting to purge, you know, like go on a detox, purge out a part of your house, purge relationships, purge the things. You know, it's about us moving into our empowered sense of, you know, personal power and control in our own lives, and not control in the sense of like being OCD in control, but being in our personal power, standing in our worth, value, all of the things, because it's really important that we own our stage, that we own our inner power, and that we find new ways to not let the opinions of other people take you off this magical path that is your journey as it's unfolding. And it's always about divine timing, right? So we're being activated. There is an activation that's happening. When a square is involved, it's a little bit of a tension point, but we need that square. We need that square to stand up in our power, right? So it is right on time. So if you're feeling that energy of purging, releasing, letting go, and what's funny is if you look into today's shorts that I put up, the set free card was here, and it was about release. It was about asking for, you know, ask for the support you need from universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it. If you aren't sure what you're trying to take your own power back around, if you don't know, if you're disconnected from that energy and you have no idea, ask for support, you know, and be awareness and allow yourself to be receptive and open to what is here for you to step into. Now, there is a sextile that happens from the sun and the moon to Saturn. Okay, so we're looking over here to Saturn. So we have this energy of the sextile, which is also including the North Node in there, just so we're aware. There's a lot of beautiful energy here. And this is about us getting really serious about our creativity. When we think about Saturn and Pisces, Pisces is that creative, flowing. You know, it can also be a little bit like illusion and delusion as he's floating out into La La Land. But there is this energy of support of moving us forward. And we also have Vesta right smack dab here in the middle. And this is our heart fire, our heart's desire. There is a burning urge within you that is now getting some structure, some support, some help from that Saturn saying, okay, creatives of the world, this is your time. Are you ready? Or more like ready or not, here you go. And how can you own that creative power within yourself? Doing it. Version 1 is better than version none. So getting something out there and taking chances, right? If you think about it, Saturn is related to Chronos, time. This is divine time. It's perfect time. You're right on time, if you've been wondering. Now, Mars is sextiling Uranus, which we did talk about as well. And it's about intensifying our intuition, especially when he's in Cancer, our creativity, our autonomy, like being in our personal power. And this can be very quick moving inspirations, insights, creativity, you know, unexpected things like, wow, who knew? You know, who knew you had that talent? Maybe you just need time to explore it. And again, the timing is perfect. So Mars squaring Chiron as well is an energy we need to talk about because there is this healing energy. that is happening. And, you know, we've been on a healing journey for some time. That Chiron in Aries is all about healing that I am within us, that personal healing, the woundings that we have, you know, or sacred woundings that are teaching us lessons about the things we need to transform or heal from in the way we show up personally in the world. What happened to us personally? How can we heal those so that we can be in our sacred masculine without needing to feel like we have to be aggressive to get the point across, like that we get a chance to heal ourselves in a way that gives us a more refined approach to how we go about getting things. Like we don't need to manipulate or take advantage of. We just understand, you know, yes, this is something that happens that I need to process through and work through, but I don't need to manipulate anybody to get what I want. That's the kind of energy that is, you know, providing this beautiful healing action. So in a nutshell, that's the astrology. I'm not going to go too much deeper into it because I feel like that's more than enough to gift you with some insights to help you understand your beautiful energy. Now, I want to move into the human design. So if you're like, this is great for the astrology, thank you so much. You are complete. I appreciate your time, your energy, and your beautiful support as you're here and sharing your comments below and letting people know how this might be showing up for you. So those of you who are here for the human design portion, this is the energy of this solar eclipse. Now, we have a lot of, from, you know, the heart up, we've got a lot of openness. And what does this mean? These are undefined. We're amplifying the energy of the heart, of the will, of the throat, of the head, and the ajna. And this means that we are open to receive insights, information, inspirations in the way we manifest, the way we bring things in. And then, you know, we're very grounded. There's a grounding energy here that is supporting us by connecting us to the root, the sacral, you know, the emotional energy, as well as the splenic energy. So we're feeling all the feels, but in a very stable way. When it's defined, it's more predictable. It's more, we kind of know the energy. So it's like, you know, the emotional energy, you're feeling the instinctual energy or the fearful energy. It could be like, ooh, but it's more grounded in the way you're experiencing it. When we look here, we look to the sun. Remember that conjunction of the sun and the moon is in the gate 3. Well, the gate 3 is about innovation. And this is about how we innovate, how we have the life force, workforce energy to be an innovation and to trust the innovation, which is coming from the pulse of Pluto. You know, I'm going to jump around just a little bit just to speak to it as it's in the chart. So you kind of know, okay, well, I could feel this. That Pluto energy is about conservation and understanding, like we had to go through certain challenges, you know, that sort of optimistic, you know, transformation. It's like the energy of, okay, well, I had to have this happen so that I can see where I'm going to go now, or I can feel where I'm going to move this forward now. Like, oh yeah, now I have a bigger connection to that transformation optimism. Like you see the positive in it, as opposed to being like, oh, why me? Why is this happening? You know, that's the transformation here. And then you get to innovate with that. Like now, you know, what can you do with it? So that's this energy that's awakening within you in this solar eclipse. What are you going to do with all of these things that you've been through and experienced? What do you want to do with it? How do you want to bring it forward? And when we look to the earth, what keeps us grounded? Well, that grounding is in that intuition, that instinctual understanding of like, what do the people need? How can I nurture the people? This is literally the gate of nurturing. So how do I nurture the people without exhausting myself? And North Node is in the 27, which is about accountability. How can I teach? How can I support, love, and nurture the people, but also teach them how to do that for themselves, that I'm not doing it all for them? Because so many of you are so giving, so loving, so nurturing, but to a fault because you haven't defined the boundaries of how much is too much. So this is also that, like, am I giving too much? How can I teach them how to support themselves? This is the energy, if you remember me saying this before, of teach them how to fish so that they can go and do it for themselves and feed their families, as opposed to you just providing them with it and then them starving because they have no idea how to fish, right? So help people become responsible to take care of themselves. That is the energy of where we're headed with the North Node. North Node is where we're going. South Node is where we've been. In the gate of challenge and adventure is where we've been. Who hasn't been on a crazy adventure of, oh my God, like what else could go wrong? How come this is happening to me? Like everyone else is getting blah, blah, blah. And here I am sitting in poop. Well, you had to sit in poop sometimes to be able to understand how powerful the experience that you've had is now worth. So experiences, education, your knowledge base is more valuable sometimes, more times than not. I will say this, like, I would rather work with someone who has been through the fire and the experience than someone who has read it in a book only. So that's the gift of the 28 of where you've been. Moon is in the 3. Remember, we talked innovation. Innovation is here. Okay. Then let's look at Mercury, who's about to go retrograde. He's hanging out actually with Uranus. So Uranus is here. Remember, Uranus is that rogue entrepreneur who just does things a little bit crazy, but it always works out. And that's the energy of allowing. So this gate is the gate of allowing. Are we becoming more receptive? Do we trust that we can follow our passion and be this creative, amazing being that we want to be, but that something or someone or, the opportunities will find us because we are in such emotional alignment with our greatest gift, which is to be a co-creator while we're here. And I know that kind of like sounded a lot like a big mouthful, but if you think about it, do you trust that you stepping into your creative path as a creator in this lifetime, let's say you want to become, a beautiful macrame artist. Okay. And you're like, but I've been a biotech engineer and now I'm going to shift. Like, it doesn't make sense in the mind, but it makes sense in your heart. And it feels like a calling and a pull on your heart. Well, if you didn't think logically and you let yourself lean into the, well, what if I tried it out and see what happens? That's this gate of allowing. It's like stepping into the unknown, knowing you'll be supported. Hardest thing on the planet to do, but when you can do it, there is a reward. So are you open to that? And it being, Mercury going to move into this retrograde, you're going to have time to like think about it, which you don't want to think about it too much, but it's going to give you time to mull the things over because we are moving into this creator era. It literally is what's happening. We've been in the information age and we're about to move into the creator era. And that's the gift. So are you going to be open to that, or are you going to keep pounding it out doing something you hate? I think the people who can pivot quickly into the emotional frequency of joy, of being in work that feels good, as opposed to like, and cutting back. So like, I don't need this huge house. I don't need to have 2 cars. We can make it work with this, and I can feel better and happier and have more family time and be a better human because I'm happier, I'm more joyful and I feel more fulfilled. That's where we're at right now. It's like, well, what could you get rid of to feel more joy, more passion, more purpose, more creative? That's where we all are. And then Venus is here in the gate of zest. Okay. And again, the gate of zest is about the courage to trust your intuition, your courage to trust the pulsing and the timing, like that is right. And you're ready enough. Some of you need to hear that again. The timing is right. You're ready enough. You don't need another course. You don't need another whatever. version 1 is better than version none. Do it if you need that little push. Mars is in the gate 39, which is the gate of recalibration. Okay, he's recalibrating, he's thinking, he's making some changes. It's down here, right? Some things need to change. And Mars here is tuned in. He is tapped in. He does feel secure. He does feel safe. He just feels a little annoyed because he can't move fast enough. And he's connected right now to the gate of faith. 55 is where Saturn is. So they are making a channel here, which is like, he doesn't feel that happy about this, but if he can find a way to lean into more of his receptivity, being in Cancer, being in, more sensitive, more intuitive, and trusting, having the faith that everything will work out the way it's meant to work out, will be everything changes because he trusts. Okay. Now we look at Jupiter. Jupiter's in gate 42, and gate 42 is about conclusion. Gate 42 is where we come to completion with something. Running off here, the sacral center. So this is our workforce, life force energy. Like, the blessing comes when you get rid of the thing that is sucking you dry, or the thing that is taking up too much space in your heart, in your mind, in your body. You become done with it. Maybe done with a way of being, done with a way of engaging your energy with other people. You know what it is. And we have this beautiful Neptune in gate 36, which is the gate of exploration. And we are really exploring new frontiers, new ways of being, new ways of living, new ways of doing, new ways of feeling, because it's running off the emotional solar plexus. How do I feel about exploring new things? So maybe I feel terrified, but I have to lean into this feeling that I've got here, that something is calling me to go here, to look here, to explore what this might be. And lastly, we talk about Pluto, which is in the gate 60, which is down here. And that's that gate of conservation. Like, I know I've been on this crazy journey, but what have I learned? And how can I now utilize that to the best of my ability, that transformation optimism? So in a nutshell, my friends, there you have it. The beautiful energy that's here to shake us up, to break us up. I'm going to use that term very lightly, but there may be relationships that end. And just remember, sometimes there is a season, sometimes there is a reason. That energy that you've been sharing with someone or something has to come to an end, or needs to be completed. But that doesn't mean you don't get to revisit it later. It's just that this is such a big time, I think, the next 6 months, for healing this divine feminine energy and for stepping into your power of being a real divine feminine creator. What does that look like? And that doesn't mean you throw the masculine out the window. That means you find a way to bring these together and to bring them into partnership in a marriage, in a way that feels really good for you. So what does that look like? I can't wait to hear. Tell me all about it in the comments below. Let me know what you're processing through, what you're moving through. And we're sharing this beautiful experience and journey together. Now, I have a lovely guide that I'm going to put the link to below, and it really is about stepping into your divine feminine frequency. It's teaching you, where is your Venus? What does that mean? What could it signify? How can you embody it a little bit more? And you may want to grab that guide, because it is a great way to start with your Venus energy. So thank you again so much for being here. Mwah! So much love to all of you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful you're here, and I can't wait to see you again very soon. Take care, everyone.